Welcome back to the Team Building Asia podcast. I'm Mark. I'm going to be your host today, and today I'm joined by David and Stuart. And these guys have been around for a long time. They've seen everything. And today we're going to be talking about the different types of experience: indoor versus outdoor, team bonding versus experiential learning, and also the types of debriefs. So we're going to get into that. First of all, we're going to start with my first question. It's going to be for Stuart. When we're looking at the types of team building and team bonding, this is always a question that comes up. So what do you find is the difference between the two?
Yeah, good question, Mark. So we get a lot of inquiries for general team building or team bonding. What we're trying to do is educate the customers on what area and direction to go in. We would see sort of a more team bonding around, a bowling, a war games, bubble soccer, or annual dinner, those sort of team bonding activities where you're bringing people together and the real outcome is to have a bit of fun and, get to mingle amongst your colleagues. Whereas on the team building side, we would probably more see that as more structured, specific outcomes that the customer's looking to achieve around their values or around the business or improving communication. So generally the team building would have more outcome focused.
And for you, David, do you ever find the organisers are looking for more of a team bonding rather than a team building type activity?
Well, usually when they come to us, they might have tried their own internal team building for a while, and then as they scale up and get bigger, they want to take it to a different level. And that's where people culture comes into it, as Stuart mentioned there, about values and outcomes. As company gets bigger, it's the values that keep them together. And we've got a whole suite of programs that can address that, can bring those values to life through the experiences that we deliver.
Okay, perfect. And then when we're looking at outdoor and indoor type programs and experiences, what does that mean in terms of delivery from our side, and how does that look?
Yeah, good question, Mark. So a lot of customers come to us and they say they want to be outdoors. Understanding what they really mean by that. Is it just being outdoors for the sake of being outdoors, or are they looking more like an adventure type program? So when we're talking to the customers and going through it, understanding what they're looking for us, we would understand whether they want to go an outdoor program, like a sort of outward bound ropes course, raft building, hiking, that type of experience.
Sounds great. And David, you're on the ground as a lead facilitator. You get to see the fun, the action. What would you say has been one of the most surprising things you've seen over your time?
Well, there's always surprises, and it's always really great when you run into some of the participants that recognize you from being the trainer on the program. Probably lots of good feedback over the years. A few have stood out. There was one person that took me aside and said there was one of the activities they were doing that was a problem-solving program. It was actually happened to be outdoors, and it was with a colleague of theirs that they didn't really pay much attention to. They said when they're at work, they didn't really listen to a lot of what ideas they had and didn't think they were a great problem solver, really. But because they were out of the environment doing something different, they were able to zoom out. And the person maybe was very comfortable in that area was suggesting ideas, suggesting problem solving. And the person sort of did a 180. It was like, wow, this person really does have good ideas. And that sort of unconscious bias, they were able to address that and said, oh, these programs really do bring out a different side of people and really help them to appreciate that colleague.
Okay, good stuff. And then when we look at the types of classroom training and experiential learning, so this is always something that comes up, that when clients are trying to understand the difference between the two, how would you approach that, Stuart?
Yeah, I would say sort of classroom training, just sort of traditional training, the facilitators there with their laptop, presentating, soft skills training. And whereas a sort of experiential, certainly at Team Building Asia, people have been on our programs before. We've got a lot of props, a lot of equipment. It's very visual, people getting their hands on the equipment. So it's more, as the name suggests, experiential versus being taught something by a facilitator with their, soft skills training.
And then when it comes to the end of this experience, we go into the debriefing process. So I hear there's two types of debriefing process. So could you give us a little bit of information on these?
Yeah, true, Mark. That's very true. And obviously we've refined this over the years. For us, and what we've basically come down to now to really get that message across for the customers is, are they looking for an experience sort of sharing, So after the program, it's a 15 minute to 20 minutes, discussing informally based on the objectives that they had set at the beginning and doing an informal sharing. Or are they looking more like an action focused debrief? And that's really about more, as the name suggests, Mark, it's got action in there. That means the participants need to take action after the program. And obviously that needs to rely very much on the stakeholders taking those actions back to the workplace afterwards and implementing those to make sure that the learning continues back in the workplace.
Very good. And then David, from a facilitator point of view, if there was a full day team build experience, how do you incorporate the debriefing into this?
Yeah, well, Stuart mentioned those different types of debriefing that we have. So we normally start with the first activity. That would be something that's an experience led to get them into the idea of taking the experience and what is the learning they can take from that, and some actions that they might be able to take back to the workplace. As we go through and they get more familiar with the different type of programs, we can take that to the next level. We've got one of our tools, which is a team assessment tool, so they can actually rate how well they have reached the objectives of problem solving, of collaboration, of working together. And then what actions they can take from that, that they need to take back in the workplace. And finally, with the wrap up, that can evolve into what we call a personal development journal, where people for themselves can take the actions that they've documented, go back to the workplace and hold themselves accountable to develop them over the next 3 months, over the next 6 months, 9 months, ready for the next training.
Yes, very good. Very good information there. That's one of the things from a sales point of view about how they're going to take this back to the workplace. So you both hit the nail on the head there. So in terms of someone choosing their next team building experience, give us one tip from your point of view, Stuart, on how to approach this.
I think they just need to look at what they're looking to achieve during that session. I think that's kind of the key part. Is it a team bonding event where they just want to bring people together, or is it something more structured with outcomes they want to bring back to the business?
And David?
The big one is, what are people going to walk away with? You've done this for the day. How are you going to make a change back in the workplace? And it's about small steps. So it's always, the big question is at the end of this training, what's the one key learning or the one action that you might do differently as a result of this training back in the workplace?
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time today. And that's a wrap. Stay tuned for the next episode and we'll be giving you more insights. If you're really interested, please go onto our website, www.teambuildingasia.com, and take a look at some of the available options.